Yeah, in 1974, I started a business called Speedy Then, selling mag wheels. I finished with Trick in 72, and then 74, I started selling mag wheels and tires in this very premises which we made into a museum. And I used to help the tire people, the racing at Springwell Oval Track here in Clarksville, it's called the Hot Rod Circuit. And I used to help a lot of the young rubber guys with second-hand tires so they could race with it. And they used to always invite me, come and watch us race. So the one Saturday I said, okay, let me go and see what it's all about. So I went there and I saw them racing and I said, this looks so easy, man. I can do it too. So one of the guys I was sponsoring with tires, I asked him in the interval time, I said, do you think there's a chance after the race that you could arrange for me to test your car? And I was immediately quicker than the guy that was racing the car. So that was a bug they bit. And then I built a hot rod car for the old Mark 1 Escort. And then I sponsored two other people that were, so we made up a team. And we used to build our own cars, work at night. And then eventually we had Johan Coetzee, the famous Johan Coetzee that used to build our engines for us in the 1600 cross-flow engines. So that's how it started. So thereafter, I was one day, I used to have a branch in Woodendalsrus. Woodendalsrus is in the Free State where late Tony Viana was born and bred. And Tony was a good friend of mine, and he used to come and buy wheels and tires from me, and he used to call me Obut. Obut means like an elder brother. And Tony always used to say he used to practice at Goldfields Raceway, the old Goldfields, before it became Pakiza, which was one of the nicest circuits at the time in South Africa, with the longest straight and everything. So Tony used to tell me, and I'm going to say it the way he used to say it in Afrikaans, hou op rondvak met haar trots, kom ry langbaan. That means don't mess around your time with hot rods, come and drive the long circuits. So the one day he was practicing with a Group N car, and he took me around about 3 laps around the Goldfield circuit, and he said, "I get in and try, and I'm going to watch you." And then he was advising me on my lines, and he stood on certain points on the circuit, and he checked if I was doing the right lines. And that weekend, Graham Duxbury wasn't available in a factory team car to drive. Tony used to prepare all the race cars for BMW at his workshop in Welkom. So he asked me, would you like to come and drive? So I said, no, the opportunity like that, I'm not going to give it a miss. So that's the first race I did was in one of BMW's cars at Goldfields Raceway. And that bug was different. The long circuit was different. It was higher speeds than the oval track. And you had challenges of different corners, high-speed corners, low-speed corners, outbreaking each other. It was more exciting. So I went over to the bigger circuits. Well, I finished in the top five. It was very close racing those years, Michael. The Group N cars in Class A, when we were very competitive with the Super Bosses and the Shadowline BMWs that you see. We were 21 cars in Class A alone. It was just Opel and BMW. And the battles were like unbelievable. So if you could finish in the top 10, because the people were like within 1 second of each other in the top 10 qualifying. So yeah, it was exciting and it was good for me. This is the original car that late Tony Viana raced, and there were only 10 of them built in South Africa at BMW's plant, especially for racing. So this is one of the 10 cars that was originally built. It's only done 17,000 kilos, and it's one that never had any big accidents or anything. So when these cars came out, the first time we were taking on the super bosses at Swartkops, when the launch of the 325 IAS, the 2.7 motor was done. You obviously remember that these cars were purpose-built in South Africa for racing. BMW built the 327, which was unique to South Africa, and Opel built the Super Boss, which was unique to South Africa. There was only 500 units built to be able to race them. And so I went to practice on the Wednesday before the race, and I found the gearing of the size tires that we were getting was totally wrong for the circuit. So we used to buy tires and scheme the tires. Mike White used to have a machine that could cut the thread away to 2 millimeters. So because if you had too much grip, you were slow. And the tires used to get very hot, and then you lose the grip on that. So we used to scheme the tires so you could. The rule was that you must be able to see the thread still. It mustn't be like a slick tire. Okay, so I went to buy a set of 205 60 15 tires. It was on the 740 BMWs at the time. And I put that on and tried it, and I was the second quicker, just because of the right gearing. So then on the Friday when the official practice started, I never took my car out because I was watching all the factory teams' times, and they were all 1 second slower than me. And I hid my car, kept a secret. I said, I'm not going to let them know where the times are made up. So Saturday morning qualifying, I put it on pole position out of 21 cars, and it was a national race. And BMW went to the factory, stripped new 7 Series, cut the tires, and brought them.
Nice close shot there, Farouk.
That was my first official win in a national race against works teams. So I had an overall victory for the day. I beat my mentor, Tony Viana, that day. And I think they had a lot of questions to answer the Monday with their bosses. Because how can a privateer, we've helped him with a car. He comes from Clarksdorp and he beats all your professional drivers that are paid. So Tony told me after that, he said, we had a lot to answer on that Monday. You caused a lot of answers for us. So which was fun, it was a challenge of just like doing something and taking on like the David and Goliath type of a fight, You've got no chance to beat factory drivers with the technology there, with the engineers that could help them set up cars. We had to figure out our own things. And I used to have a little business called Speedy Den. So whatever money I was making, I was taking from there and spending on my racing side. Limited budget, yeah. I had one mechanic that, and then there were two, they call them handlangers, it's like people that were fans of racing, that will come and assist you, type of a thing. So it was like, they used to come and help me, local guys from the town. Yeah, that was, to me, it was like, it's my passion. I enjoyed it, obviously. I mean, not the race because I enjoyed it. And as a privateer, I was the only Indian racer at the time in the apartheid era. So it was a white elitist sport at the time, you can say. And there wasn't a chance for an Indian guy to come and compete against the guys. And they didn't take it too well at the time initially too. But we didn't worry about that. I went for the sport, which I enjoyed, and I ignored all the bad comments or whatever used to come. And I said, you know what, we're doing it for the sport and to promote the sport. And yes, I had good fun. I had good races, and we did lots of successful races. So Michael, it was fantastic. There was an endurance races once a year in Cape Town. It was the end of the year after the championship. It's like the last race of the championship. So we used to prepare for that because it's a 7-hour race. And I invited Matt Neal at the time. He was at the time a junior driver in the UK. And Eddie Kaizen was a good friend of mine. When I started selling mag wheels, he was my supplier of mag wheels. And I was the first Tiger wheel and tire in South Africa. It was privately owned. So Eddie was a very good friend of mine, and I invited Eddie to come and drive with me and share the drive. So Eddie and Matt Neal and myself, we shared the drive. And that race, we were lying third overall at 6 hours 50. And then the car blew a head gasket and we finished about eighth. So yeah, we just drove it with a blown gasket till it ceased. So the deal was that Opel offered me a car at the time free of charge. Okay, so I had to pay for my previous cars, everything myself because I was my own sponsor. And Opel gave me a car and asked me to be a backup driver for Michael and Grant for the works team. So the deal that they gave me was quite good for me financially. It was beneficial for me.
Yeah.
And they gave me tires free, they gave me oils free, they gave me fuels free. They got a holiday sponsor for me. So it cost me very little to go over to Opel.
Yeah.
And the condition was just that I need to be a backup driver to hold back the BMs, obviously, if I can, and to support Michael and them. Not to beat them, but to support them,
Yes.
which suited me financially perfect, and I enjoyed it.
But what was it like being in that time as a privateer in amongst the factories? What was that like?
It was the big challenge for me was I wanted to compete against the best in the country at the time, and in this way I could get into that and compete against them, and I could beat them too. So it was like a challenge for me in my life to say, can you take on the might and beat them from time to time?
Yeah.
And if whenever I beat the work teams on lots of occasions, it was like a satisfaction that I can't explain to anyone what it meant to me to be part of this. And coming from a family where my father was a hawker, no one raced in our family before. I was the first racer in our family.
Sure.
And and amongst the Indian community in South Africa, it was like a big thing to see an Indian racer competing like at a national level.
Yeah.
And I became a known figure amongst the Indian community throughout South Africa. So whenever I went to smaller towns, like in the Eastern Transvaal or whatever, Ermelo and Bethel, and people used to get excited to meet me and say, because racing was live on a Saturday afternoon on Top Sport.
Yes.
Every race was live. So people used to sit on the box on a Saturday afternoon and actually wait for the races to start and watch. And it was the time of Roger McCleary, Hendrik Farouk. They were the commentators and they were excited. They knew a lot about the background of each person. And so yeah, it was just really the enjoyment I got out of it. We need to stay humble. That's the main thing.
100%.
I mean, nothing. It's all God's gifts to us that He gives us the knowledge to do things, and we need to be thankful for that and be blessed every day to be living and enjoying things.
And back to your West Bank modified days. How did you get to that?
Also very good. It was the time with Colin Clay, Larry Wilford, Johan Coetzee, all these guys were racing in that 1600cc class. So it was different classes. Was Class A was a big guns, and like in Morgan Root and Tony Viana and all these guys used to be in the big machines in Class A. And Class B was Duckham and the Class B with the smaller and little smaller engines. C was like a 2-liter engine car, and D was a 1600cc class. So we could use slicks and different suspensions and body kits and stuff like that. No aero kits on the car at the time. So that was also fun for me. It was one or two seasons that I did of West Bank Modifieds. And I enjoyed that, especially beating Johan Coetzee with a car that he built. And Johan Coetzee was known, he was a South African hot rod champion too.
Yes.
And he was a South African production car champion. And there was a race in Lichtenburg where Henny and Tony and them were just a few points behind Johan Coetzee in the championship. And if someone beat Johan that day, it gave Henny and Tony a better chance to win because the overall championship was not decided on a class. It was the most points that you gathered over the season. So I qualified Johan Coetzee in a car that he built for me. And that day, I'll tell you, Henny and Willie Abburn and Tony and all of them came to me, oh, but you must just beat this man today, please. Whatever it takes, you got the pace, you can beat him. So Lichtenburg was a very short circuit. I don't know if you've ever been there. And there was always a cement dust. There's a cement factory there. So there was cement dust on the track, and it was always like very slippery.
Sure.
And you had to be aware of what you could do maximum on your limits. And on that day, with our luck, as we pulled off, the side shot broke. And Tony and them were very disappointed because they wanted me to beat Johan so they could be ahead in the championship. So yeah, it was good memories with Colin and all these guys. We had very, very good days. We had good racing. It was clean, good fun. So you know, Michael, all the old circuits, I've raced all the old circuits of South Africa, like Goldfields Raceway, the first Kyalami, before the changes, the second Kyalami, and the third version of Kyalami. So to me also the old Kailami was one of my favorite tracks with that long straight and downhill. In Swat, of course, we've seen the first version which we used to drive anti-clockwise and subsequently became clockwise. And Goldfields was the old Goldfields at a long straight. So that was a special circuit. It was special. So that's when we were doing the West Bank modified store. The old Kailami. Yes, from there to European, yes.
Interesting. I didn't know you did modify.
And then I also had the opportunity to be able to do some international racing.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so when the cars, the German touring cars came to South Africa in 1990 to Kailami for an international race. So all our South African drivers were used to a 15-minute race, 10-lap race. It was a sprint race.
Yes.
And so we were fit enough for that. We didn't realize how tough it was to drive a 1-hour race. And because we had power steerings in our cars and stuff like that. When you came to touring cars, there's no power steerings. There's nothing. So the BMW touring car you see at the back,
Yes.
left-hand drive and no power steering. So it was a difficult. You had to be strong and fit and be in good shape to be able to drive them.
Yes.
So we bought a drive, myself and Robbie Smith, team Tauber Motorsport. So Kerma Tauber, Mr. Tauber's son was the racing. We shared a drive with him. So we did a 1 hour race, Robbie and myself, in a Tauber team at Kailami. And we were hospitalized most of the South African drivers. In Aberdeen and all of these guys, raced Tony Vienna. We were all hospitalized because we were finished. We couldn't handle it. We couldn't turn the steerings anymore. So then I realized you need to be very fit to be able to drive these cars because they were 300 plus horsepower cars. And I mean, you could come down the mine shaft flat through that cars. And then you're doing like over 200 k's an hour.
Because you were against the Mercedes.
Yes, Mercedes AMGs and Winkelhock and Steve Soper and all these guys. So I've got a program where it shows where we qualified 14th against all the top 25 in the world. Yeah, and we finished 14th overall too.
Perfect.
Yeah, which was fantastic for us.
Yes.
So we had a privateer team. Tauber was a privateer team in Germany. Okay. And Tony and Chris Everdeen and all these guys had the factory teams to drive for. So they were sharing with Steve Soper and guys like that. So they had the factory cars. So obviously they were quicker.
So you underdog again.
Which was fun. I could do it. That was the main thing. Yeah. And then I built up a relation with the Tauber team. And they invited us to come and do the 24-hour Nurburgring race in 1992. So in 1992, Peter Lance and myself paired up because we drove one of the 7-hour races with the Opel Superboss. Peter Lance shared a drive with me.
Okay.
He was a BMW driver.
Yeah.
And I dared him. I said, you can't drive an Opel, man. And you're not used to a front-wheel drive car. And he said, no, I can drive anything. So he shared a drive with me in a Castrol 7-hour in Killarney. So we became good friends, Peter and myself. And then we bought a drive in Germany in the 24 hours. So the fun part of it, I must tell you the story, to learn the Nurburgring is like impossible. It's 27 kilometers through a mountain. And it's a public road. And it links up with the Grand Prix circuit. So the first time they open the Grand Prix circuit is on race day, for qualifying. So you can go around the hill.
Yes.
You buy a drive and you bought. So myself and Peter couldn't hire any car because they were all hired out. So there was a new 740 BMW that had just been launched. So we hired a 740 BMW and said, let's go and try and learn as much as we can. So we finished the tires and the brakes and everything. But we learned a bit of the circuit, sliding this big BMW around the and
imagine in civilian clothes.
Yes, and all the private cars are on the road, so there were lots of like obstacles on the road that you had to maneuver through. So the next day we got a call from Avis and said, you need to pay 16,000 rand for the damages you caused on the car. And it was like that. The tires were finished, the brakes were shuddering.
Sure.
Because we were planning a brand new car there.
Yeah.
So I told Peter, we better pay. These Germans will arrest us if we don't pay. So his words was, tell him to F off. I said, Peter, we better pay because it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
So I went to swipe my card and I paid and I said, that's fine, we caused the damage. So the most interesting part, Michael, of the 24-hour Nurburgring, when I did my entry, the lady that was doing the entry there for the race said, you're the first Indian driver ever to come and drive at the Nurburgring in 1992.
Wow.
So that was a bit of history also, that I was the first Indian driver at the ring.
Sure.
And,
That's impressive.
and the most difficult part of it is there's 250 cars that go out for qualifying. Each driver has got to qualify within 110% of each other. Each driver has got to qualify. And only 180 cars will qualify. So 70 will fall out if you don't make it within a certain time in your group. So we made it. We were 101st on the grid out of 180 cars. We were in a 2-liter M3 BMW Group 1 car.
Okay.
So it wasn't a touring car, it was a Group 1 car,
Yeah.
which had the narrow tires and everything like that. So, but you could go on long fuel stops on that car.
Okay.
So it was a bit easier to drive. And we could do a 12 or 15 minutes per stop. So I was really fit at the time. I used to gym and be jogging and prepare my neck muscles and everything. Because I learned my lesson at Kailami with that 1 hour race. There's no joke to drive these cars for so long. And so we were lying second in our group at 12 hours, at 20 hours. 20 hours we were lying second in our group. And just Tony and them were leading, and then Tony's car crashed out. We crashed out. Peter Lance crashed about 6 kilometers into the mountain. There was a Porsche that blew an engine, and the oil was on the circuit, and Peter didn't realize it was through the night. Yeah, and it was very difficult because it was raining and fog and then dry. So that was a big challenge of my career, that I wanted to do the ring, and I successfully competed there. And the stress we had to qualify within 110% of each other, because the German driver knew the track.
Yes.
And Peter and myself didn't know the track at all. And the first time you get onto the Grand Prix circuit, it's only in qualifying. So you could do the mountain before there, but you don't know the circuit yet.
Yes.
You would only see a map, and there was no simulators or nothing. You could learn anything.
To learn on your
To the plot of your gut feel of what you feel, and you do your thing with the car. So that was a very special part of my life, 1993, they launched the South African touring cars.
Okay.
It was like an international level, because in Britain they started the 2-liter touring car class. And then Europe, Italy and France and Germany and all these guys went to a 2-liter class. So they were all controlled with 2-liter engines, maximum 8,200 revs, weight of 1,050 kilos minimum, or maximum weight of the car. So they were all like production model BMs and Toyotas and Nissans and Volvos, and all brands came in, all the factories supported the trip. So we went to buy the M3 that you see in the background. I went to buy it from Sean Walker. He was racing Auto Trader colours in the UK. And I paid £30,000 at the time to buy his second-hand car. Yes, and then because the factories in South Africa that started BMW, Opel, Nissan, VW, they had big budgets. They could have brand new cars built the latest technology. And we couldn't afford it, so we bought a used car, which was obviously lower on power and stuff like that with the older engines and that. But it gave me the chance to be able to compete in touring cars. And then the first year it went quite well. We had obviously it's our old car, and we had quite a few breakdowns, like the one race at Swartkops. We qualified fourth on the grid, I think, or third on the grid, and then I was lying in third position, and then the gearbox broke on the 8th lap out of the 10-lap race. And so we used to have our hiccups, and we didn't have much space at the time to make a plan with everything. Yeah. And the car was handling fantastic, although we were so much down on power, but it was. So the factory cars were making 290 horsepower, the 2-liter engines. That was strong for the time. If you think it's 30, 35 years, 34 years ago. And we had a 220 horsepower, car. So it was all about driving it as best you can, getting the best setups out of the car, and purely on handling, a short circuit like Swartkops, you could use the advantage. But at like Goldfields, I qualified third once and lying third, but on the straight they just used to come past like looking for parking. So you couldn't even catch your slipstreams out there. So much more power the factory teams had. East London, but the car was very good at East London too with the handling. This whole M3s were amazing with the handling. They were really built well. So they still, when I take it occasionally for the BMW track day at Festival of Motoring, and I did the hill climb last year with it. At Samola Hill Climb, came second in his class. And I'm now 70. I'll be turning 71 this year. So I try and still keep up to do the things, and I still enjoy doing it. And I think a lot of the younger people that never experienced these cars or never saw them in action go completely wild when they see it. So this was my late son's plan. That he said, Dad, he was murdered about 7 years ago in a robbery, and it was his idea. He said that you were the only Indian successful racer in South Africa in the era of apartheid. And he says the golden days of motorsport, you did so well. Let's preserve this and let's do a museum out of the premises that you started your first business. So this is exactly where we started. I was selling mag wheels. And then it was his idea uh, to do this whole museum and all the pictures that he did and recording. And he found each driver of my era to ask them for their race suits. And they're all obliged and send their race suits. And Mohammed did all this planning for me.
Tell me about Mohammed and his racing. He did Neisner, the hill climb a few times.
Yes, yes. He did some BMW track days. Okay. And Mohammed at the age of 13, at the age of 10, I taught him how to drive a Nissan 1400 Bakkie. I taught him how to drive a 1400 Bakkie, and then he immediately got the feel of driving a car. And at 13 years old, I took him one day to Kailami with me, and we had a Renault Clio V6. I bought one of that, and I took him with to Kailami for the track day. Yeah. And because the marshals were all good to me and they knew me well, I asked them, I'd like to teach my son on the track. And they said, well, they're not allowed to, but it's okay. We're going to overlook it. And I took him around for about 5 laps in that Clio. And I said, okay, now you get behind the wheel and you drive. And initially he was like scared and he said, no, Dad, this is difficult. I said, drive, I'm going to tell you what to do. Yeah. And I mentored him. And then 5 laps later, he got the hang of it. Sure. And he did about 10 laps for the day. And then the pattern. So then Mohammed started coming to the racetracks, and I used to let him practice with the BMW and stuff like that. But he never officially took part. And we built a Polo Cup car for him with Kerem Nathan, and he raced. But Mohammed was a very soft-natured person, and he wouldn't fight back if people bullied him on the track. You know how rough it gets in Polo Cups and that. Yeah, and they used to take him up like 1 or 2 races. They took him out, and he said, no, Dad, I don't enjoy this because it's not fair racing. It's like I'm being bullied in this racing. And so he gave it up, and he said, no, I don't want to do this further. And then he enjoyed the hill climb, the Nizla hill climb. And you saw the blue GTR that's here. That was his dream car. It was one of the original 3 Nissan GTRs that were brought in for the directors of Nissan South Africa. And these, you'll see the chassis plate is manufactured in South Africa, this car. So they assembled them here. So he spent a lot of money on this car, putting the sequential gearbox and all the carbon parts and the engine. Steve Clark, the suspension, the brakes and everything, and he enjoyed the hill climb. And he was very, very successful at the hill climb. In fact, the time he's done at Samola, I haven't been able to match it myself. And so he got into the 44s. My best time was the 45 with that car. So yeah, Mohammed had a very enjoyable time coming, because when we went to do that 50-year hot rod race at Mahem Raceway, I was invited because from the old hot rod riders, I was in a SA team in the 90s, early 90s. And we competed against the UK and Ireland. And So Mohammed got a fright when he saw the type of people that are racing in hot rods. It's rough and tough. So when we came to Miami that day, he said, Dad, I don't think you should take part here. Look at these guys; they look rough. And I said, don't worry, they respect us. You won't have a problem. You don't have to be stressed about that. He says, but I don't feel very comfortable here. I said, no, don't worry. All these guys are there. It's all contacts. And that's the first time he ever watched me doing a hot rod race because he was too young to experience the 80s when I did the hot rods. He wasn't even born yet. So this whole idea of this museum was his idea, and it like God guided him that you're not going to be around for long and do something special. That's his legacy. And so I must tell you one day what was happening at Swartkops when the first 325 BMWs were launched. Uh, qualified ahead, just ahead of Ben Morgenroot in that race. And the first, as we pulled away, he started bumping into the back of my car, and I was trying to correct. And obviously, when he let go, I corrected the opposite side and hit the wall. And my car rolled, and the race was stopped. And when I got out of the car, eventually lying on the roof and you're lying upside down, got out of the car and I asked my mechanics, was he bended bumpy? He said, yes. So the race got stopped and I went straight to Ben's car and he was sitting in the car and he used to wear a full face helmet but no visor. And I went there and I saw him and I punched him through the window. And then all hell broke loose there at Swartkops and I was suspended for 6 months. My license was suspended for 6 months for causing disreputed motorsport. And I was very upset that I said, but the cause of the type of bad driving habits of people, you're not worried about that. Sometimes we've got to deal with it our way. My car was basically written off. And as a privateer, I couldn't afford just to go and get a new car. 100%. Since I had at East London, I had once an incident with Hannes Oosthuizen. Hannes Oosthuizen was a factory driver in a BMW 325 IS. And I was driving a Superboss. Now with the Superboss, we didn't have ABS brake. So the end of the straights, we had to brake earlier than the BMs, and the BMs could outbrake us always at the end of the So he just didn't have enough to be able to pass me. And every time he was knocking me from the back and getting me sideways, and I was showing him like a fist in the mirror. And then I learned from the Ben Morgenroot incident, you're not allowed to fight. So now you've got to deal with each other on the circuit and, to teach them respect of each other. So the last lap out, made like I missed a gear. And Hannes came next to me on the straight for the finish line. And I just gave him a little nudge and he hit the barriers. And so you had to deal sometimes. I was a gentleman of a driver. I never used to fight. I never used to try and push off anyone off the circuit, unless it was just a purely racing, two cars going neck and neck in a corner and something happens. But I never used to enjoy fighting or, or spoiling someone else's race. And I was a very fair driver. And it was all about enjoying. It was not all about winning. To finish a race was like satisfaction alone. If you're competing against really fast guys, the best in the country, and you finish well amongst them, that was what gave me the satisfaction. So you'll probably recall the one race with the Vauxhall Cavalier uh, at Kailami. When I was leading the race against the factory teams. And I just brought the car in 1994. And my first race was at Kailami, and I qualified all the factory teams, BMs and Opels and Nissans and Volkswagens and everyone. And the power steering broke in the second lap or third lap. Yeah, and so you couldn't turn that car at all. Just like with a front wheel drive and a power steering gone. So we also had an international race, the last race when I raced at Vauxhall Cavalier.
Anthony Taylor has made a great start from the middle of the grid. Tiffany Dell was also quick off the line and has passed both Radisish and Mike White.
In South Africa was my teammate was Jeff Ellum from the UK. So Jeff Ellum and he was a works Opel driver in the UK. Okay. So he shared the drive with me, and that was my last race officially because I couldn't keep up because when the South African touring car started, you were allowed to bring in a car from the UK and race it or whatever. But then they brought the super touring cars, which had the wings and everything. Yes. So we could get till that. And then eventually the manufacturers were controlling the series because they were the biggest sponsors in the whole thing. So they decided the cars must be built locally. And, I didn't have the knowledge to build a car locally and I couldn't afford to build a car locally. So I just couldn't keep up financially to compete anymore. And then I stopped racing and I sent the car back to the UK. Yeah, so, but I had good fun while I did it. So at the time, I saved a few engine. I bought a brand new engine from Alpina. And then we had 270 horsepower at least. And these BMWs, the dog gearboxes, those gear starts left and third, fourth, fifth. It's a 5-speed box and it's a very close shift box. And the old engine was obviously not on power, so we put the new engine in. And the first time I went to test it, it was really quick at Belcom, at Golfers Raceway. And I was a little quicker than the factory cars already my first 2 laps. And then I tried my luck too hard by pushing it and I stuck it into first instead of third, coming through the back tight section of it. And it just blew the engine up completely. It destroyed the engine overnight. So then I had to come back to Clogsop and put the whole engine back and we raced again. So we were talking earlier about we used to drive these Group N cars to the track. We never used to tow them on trailers or nothing. It was road cars, licensed road cars. The story I was coming from, Tony used to tune our cars in Woodendal's Rivers. So I was driving from Woodendal's Rivers to Kailami. And on the highway the cops pulled me off in Joburg. And I was speeding obviously. And they pulled me off and they said, "You're speeding, sir." I said, "Yes, my boss is Tony Werner and I'm taking the car from." Although my name was on the window.
Yes.
I pulled back. And we starting a race in the next half an hour and my boss is waiting, I'm bringing his car for him. So, okay, sir, go. And they actually put the blue lights and led me to Kailami. So we used to have fun. We used to race and then drive them home. They were road cars basically. We were allowed to do certain small changes like a roll cage, a race seat, a racing harness, camber plates to do cambers, and the exhaust. That's it. That was supposed to be so. Let me tell you a story of what happened once at PE at Elvis Cravanti Circuit. I was supposed to be a backup driver for Opel, so they needed my car to be on the pace. To be able to do a good backup for Michael and Leon Marais and Connie Cleary and them. So we were practicing and I was like a second off the pace all the time. And I was trying my best and I just couldn't match the times with the super boss. And I asked Michael Briggs, I said, "Michael, don't you want to take my car and tell me what am I doing wrong or is the car not up to scratch?" And Michael took it and he was 1.5 seconds slower than myself in the car. Because I was already getting used to driving with lesser power and lesser handling. And so Michael was very good to me and he went to Peter Laird, the motorsport manager, and he told Peter, "If you want Farouk to help us and to assist us, give him a decent car to drive, don't give him shit." So they took my car overnight into the workshop. I got 20 kilowatts more out of the car, same night on the dyno. I was still like 20 kilowatts off the factory cars. We used to make 145 kilowatts on the wheels at the coast. You remember they used to have the Cosworth heads and the check cams and everything. So they were purpose built with the limited slip diffs and everything. Yeah, road legal. So then I realized the tires that we used to scheme that we spoke about earlier at Mike White's place. We used to take standard road tires and cut them, and the Opel team used to have special tires built for them by Continental. Because when they schemed them, they used to have a matte finish, and mine was like a shiny, glazy finish. So I asked one of the Opel mechanics that night, "Can't you put 4 of that tires for me on my car?" So he said, "Well, no, if they catch me out, I'll be fired." I said, "Listen, no one's going to know, just put it on." Next day, first on the grid. So Peter Laird noticed, he said, "How did Farouk get overnight so quick from being like right at the back of the field and suddenly he's like ahead of a factory team?" Yeah, I never got the real tires that were made for them. So BMW, Opel, all of these teams used to have special tires made for them. They used to do some special tires for BMW. Continental used to make. Continental's factory was based in PE. They used to do test and make tires for them and test them, and they used to have special compound tires made for them. So, you know, it was never a chance of like really beating them. It was like competing against them, and if they have a bad day and you could take advantage of it.
Yes.
So yeah, all these stories, I'm thankful for what I've achieved, you know. I think I've achieved a lot of respect in the racing community. About 2 years ago when we were doing the hill climb, I wanted Richard, yes. What are the driver? I found Richard and I said, you're testing your lesson there. Won't you please take my car outside? When I had a chance to come to Farouk to practice, just tell me the setups are okay and just test the black PTR that we did the hill climb with. So Richard took it for a few laps and he said, you need to change the brake pads and gave me some tips of what to do.
Yeah.
And I thanked him when I met him at the hill climb and I said, thank you so much that you did what you did for me. And he said, you know, when I used to stand at the fence and scream for you. I was like a fan.
Unbelievable.
And you gave me an offer to test your car and it was an honor for me to do it. So you know the respect that we've created amongst.
Yes.
You know, that's all what it's all about, eh? I used to tow my own vehicle. PE, East London, and that I used to take my mechanics, I drive my own vehicle.
Sure. Yes.
And some of the races I used to put my little kids in, put a mattress inside in the van with the spares, and they sleep, and then we tow it through the night and get to Cape Town, race and come back. So we got to work on a Monday again. Late Willie Hepburn used to do everything on his own. So we used to have the same vans, Tony Viana, myself, with left-hand drive chef vans, all base ones.
Yes.
So we used to rig them out inside to carry some space. Willie used to load off his car self from the trailer, do everything, changing wheels, everything, and then putting it back together and driving back. Even the last hill climbs that we did together, Willie used to come one man, do everything himself. Even like Tony Viana, you know, he passed away with cancer of the stomach, right?
Yes.
And Tony was my mentor. And, when Tony started becoming ill, I used to have a sinus problem over the years, and I used to have the sinutep with codeine. And Tony knew I was carrying all these tablets always with me for my sinuses. So he would come to the circuit and say, "Oh, good, give me some of that pills of yours, it helps me."
Sure.
But I always thought he's using it for sinus.
Yes.
He was using the codeine to kill the pain of the cancer. The codeine is a drug that helps you for fever and whatever. So Tony, we only realized afterwards that Tony was using the codeine just to be in a shape to be able to race.
Sure.
And what a good driver he was, eh? And he used to also do all the work himself. Every new M5 I bought in that era for my road car, I used to take it to Tony Werner to gas fill the head for me and do a chip and make it go quicker. I was forever practicing at Goldfield Circuit. He basically owned Goldfield.
Sure.
So whenever I used to go, like when I had a branch in Woodendale's Reds, on a Wednesday I used to go and then phone Tony where you are, compound to on the track. And then he's changing shocks and he's testing and he's changing whatever. Tony was a fantastic driver, a fantastic person to be. It was a fantastic car with a sequential box and everything.
It must have been mental to drive, or upgrading from that to that.
Yes,
must
yes,
have been,
it was
I don't
from
know.
rear wheel to front wheel, sequential, right-hand drive.
But you adapted quick at least, but I mean, that's
Yeah, I could adapt from, because for the BM to the Opel also, it was from rear wheel to front wheel. Obviously, you have a different style of doing your corners and everything, earlier braking and faster exits. So on a wet circuit, Michael, the Opels were quick. Eh? The BMs couldn't hang in with us ever. Because the rear wheel drives were drifting and sliding and the front wheels just could put power down and go. Eddie was my sponsor with the tires, so at least I could, that was the most expensive part of. The engines had to be rebuilt at every 1,500 kilometers. We had to send it back to the UK to Swindon to do the engine overall. Because we were not allowed to work on that engine per Southern South Africa. It's just, if you wanted a reliable engine, you had to give it to the experts to redo them. So they would do like a rebuild of your engine, and they used to keep the rebuilt engines for the market. So it was quite expensive to keep up with everything also. And at Killarney also, I did the factory BM teams and that for the Vauxhall. So it was a quick car.
Sure.
And I had Chris Goodwin. chief test engineer of McLaren. So Chris came to do a setup for me of the car
Sure.
in South Africa. He used to work for Raymelic also as a test driver.
Yes.
So he came to set up the car in Cape Town. So what a driver he was. He was unbelievable. He knew the Vauxhalls like you can't believe.
Is it?
So he came to set up the car for me at Killarney. And I think we were on the first row of the grid. First time out with that car. So I had a good memory of my racing career. I had good times. Yes, I met David Leslie, very nice guy. And Sean Walker, when I bought his car, I met him. Matthew Neal took me around all the guys.
Sure.
So Matt Neal and his dad, Steve Neal, they came together to South Africa for the 7-hour race.
Yes.
And they used to manufacture mag wheels called 100 Plus in Birmingham. So I went to the factory and then spent some time and they started their privateer team with the Honda Racing.
Team Dynamics.
Team Dynamics, yes, yes.
How did you meet them?
Because Eddie Kaizen was manufacturing wheels in South Africa.
Okay.
And he knew Steve Neal from manufacturing wheels in the UK. So Eddie organized Matt to come and race with us. He invited him. And then we became friends.
Eddie was a South African
Legend.
He's done so much.
And at the age of probably 60, Eddie shared the driving at 7-hour race. And he was like on the pace immediately, getting into a 3 to 5 BMW and amazing driver, amazing personality, a very, very good person. So when I started my mag wheel business,
yes,
obviously I didn't have capital to start the business. I had 300 Rand. I bought 2 sets of wheels and I started selling them, and then I'd go buy, replace 3 sets and 4 sets. And eventually the one day they had a place in Fortsburg in Winthrop.
okay.
So I went there to buy some wheels, and Eddie wanted to know, like, who's that young Indian boy coming to buy mag wheels regularly from his salesman. So the salesman said, my boss wants to meet you. And then he introduced me to Eddie, and Eddie said, why don't you buy more stock? I said, I don't have the capital to buy stock. So as I sell, I come and take the money and come and buy more. So Eddie opened the doors for me. He was my first banker.
Sure.
He told Stanley, the salesman, he told him, give Farouk whatever he needs, and he can pay us as he sells. I took 10 sets of wheels, and because I was always an honorable person in my life, I paid him on time, and I built relations with people. And I'm now 52 years in business.
Fantastic.
Thankful that 46 years in the motor car industry now.
Yes.
And I've won numerous awards for being the top dealer in the country. And we're based in Clarkstock, Thank God, all the blessings from our Creator.
Yes.
It's good, honest, hard work, and good service to people. And then your Creator will support you with that.